Okay, so we're up to Siman Shin Chof Seif Yud Zayin, the halachas of Sechita. So says the Mechaber in Yud Zayin, Sefoig, a sponge, ein mekanchin bo, you're not allowed to wipe with it, and imkein yesh bebeis achiza, unless it's got some sort of handle. Gazer shemi yischet, because if without a handle you're going to be touching the sponge itself. So as the Mishnah will explain, it's inevitable that you're going to squeeze it and water will come out. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sfoig, hukum in semer, it's like some wool, nas lechayf hayam, which is on the seashore. Oy befeirish ha'orach kedelakamel. There's a different pshat in what Sfoig is, which the Orach the Mishnah, the Ramah will come to soon. Over tivay sheshayev hamayim hamashkin l'soichei, and its nature is that it absorbs the liquids into it. Yeah, a sponge. Ein mekanchin boy es hatavla. You can't wipe the tavla of the table or es hakara or a plate. Elim kain, it's got a beis achiza. Rashi v'Rambam pirshu. Rashi and the Rambam explain the cheshiyesh le'or beis achiza, when it's got a handle like a leather handle sheyechzenu boy that you hold on to it. Efshel lekanech bli Sechita. Then it's possible to wipe something without Sechita. You're not actually touching the sponge itself. The Rabbi says no, even with a handle, it's impossible that you're not going to do Sechita. But nevertheless, it's okay to kiven sheyesh lebeis achiza, since you have a handle. It's like a bowl of water that you're going to spin out, and therefore it's going to be okay. Shemi yischet, and he changed it because of bihagra shetor soifer v'tzorich lem mishum Sechita. Not you might come to do Sechita, but because of Sechita. To Amrina b'Gemara the psik ratio, because it's inevitable. Mishum di'ef sheshlo yischet k'sha'ich be'etz ba'isov b'li ar beis achiza, because without holding on to some sort of leather handle, it's inevitable that there's going to be Sechita v'chein kosav ha'magen avram. Okay, good. Yudches. Chovis shepakaku b'pkak shel pishton. So you got a barrel which has got a plug in it. It's stopped up with pishton, with flax. Listem nekev shebedofna, to stop up a little hole in the side, in the wall of the barrel. Shemutzin is boin hayayin, where wine can come out of. Yesh mi shemate. Some people allow you to put this sort of plug, this stopper made out of flax, even though the actual material will mean that by putting it in and out, you're squeezing it into that hole, and some will pour out. It's allowed so long as you're not collecting the water that is being squeezed out from this material plug in the side of the barrel. That you haven't got a kli underneath it that will collect whatever is squeezed out of this plug. Since it's going to waste, there's no kli underneath it, and therefore whatever is squeezed out, the wine that's collected in the stopper, it will just go to waste. It's a psik ratio. I'll leave the brackets out for a second. It's going on the floor, and therefore it's muta. Interestingly, in the brackets here, he describes to you what a psik ratio is. I'm sure we've had psik ratio countless times so far. We're up to Shin Chof. So, but he explains to you what it is. Pirush, what does psik ratio mean? Issa nimshach behechrich midavama. That the issa is inevitable, following inevitable consequence. Kamei hamoves, like death, hanimshach behechrich me'atos reish. When you cut the head of the chicken off, then it is going to die. It's psik ratio. It's an inevitable consequence. Also, to this, if you take the plug in and out, it's inevitable that it's going to you're going to squeeze some of the wine collected in the plug. And some argue and say, the afal gav the leinichele, given the psik ratio, since it's inevitable. Also, it's not allowed. For oilim no again het v'dava, the oilim a makel, even v'yesh lilm allowing the lem zechus, and we can be makel and give a sort of find the zechus for them. The given habarza, the stop. Aruka, it's like a long stop. Chutz and the eretz for ein yad magas and eretz. In other words, the cloth part is much further in. So I'm sort of propping it in, and I'm not actually touching the cloth part, and therefore it's not inevitable that I'm going to do Sechita. Mididavi asfoig, in the same way, it's like a sfoig, pirush, i.e., that just like a sfoig has got the beis achiza, and you're touching the beis achiza and not the actual soft material part, well, so too with this stopper, since the part that's touching the water is much further in, you're not touching that part, so it's not inevitable. Pirush, ha'aruch, what is a sfoig? So the Aruch's got a very interesting pshat. Sfoig hu al roish dag, it's on the head of a fish. echad gadol shebayam, a large sea creature, or b'shah shemirim roshel istakel ba'inam, and when this large sea creature looks up into the world, yeridos ha'sfeig shle'inav ve'ina re'eh klum, the sfeig comes over its eyes, which prevents the animal from seeing anything. And without this, ships wouldn't be able to survive because this sea creature is so dangerous. Okay, it says it's got like a hand, like I said. Since this is not a particularly strong taina and you can confuse, the best thing to do is to avoid a kli underneath the stopper of this sfeig, when you plug up the hole. Okay, let's look at the Mishnah Berurah to see the halachas. Memtes, listoim nekev shebedafna. So to take a bit of material and to put it into a plug on the side of the barrel, we said chovish epaku b'kakshal pishton. It's a problem. V'yesh mishematze. Even though it's going to come to Sechita, because it's psikreisha delonichale, you don't really care if a bit of the liquid goes onto the floor. Says the Mishnah Berurah Memtes, Hainu, shekarchin sevivois habarzo chatichas beged. You take a bit of material to put around the opening of this hole. Ayna oira shal pishtan, or some flax, or poikim bo hanekev shebedofen hachovis, and you plug up the opening on the side of the barrel. Yesh mishematze lahase osa b'shabbos ulachzira, to use this plug to open to take it out of the barrel and to put it back in. Afal pi, even though by taking it, some of the material is going to squeeze and wine will come out. Some of the liquid which is contained in this material might fall out, but it's a psikreisha nichale. And okay, nun base, what's that going on? Yes, so long as there is no kli tachtov, because you're not collecting it, and then it's psikreisha nichale. Says the Mishnah Berurah nun base, the memela the hayayin anischat hoylech libud, because if you haven't got a kli, a bowl underneath where you're collecting the water, or the wine, then it's going to go liibud, it will go to waste. Kimish hanekev v'doifen hachavis b'tzida, it's on the side of the barrel, and therefore the water will just end up on the floor. Avalim hoya tachtov kli shenoitaf bo tipas halatifa, that the wine is collected in this bowl, then it's lichale. V'chenim hoya hapkika b'stimas hanekev shelemalo shayayin nischat v'yered l'toicha hachavis. If it's at the top of the barrel, i.e. the liquid that is squeezed out will go back into the barrel, because then it becomes a psikreisha d'nichale, and therefore you're squeezing the wine out and you're collecting the wine either in the bowl if the hole's on the side, or back into the wine in the barrel if the hole's at the top, and therefore that would be an issa d'oraisa. The psikreisha hu also. Now, if so that's going on the next, which says v'chol kolov, and says afal gav lo nichale, it's a psikreisha. So if you've got the material stopper, can you use it? There are those who are making and say, look, so long as there's no barrel, there's no bowl underneath, then no problem. Psikreisha lo nichale, and therefore it's okay. And there are those who say, no, it's wrong. You can't do it because even though it's psikreisha is also, and therefore you can't do it. Says the Mishnah Berurah Nun Gimel, also midrabanan. That's true. It's not a deraisa, but it's still also midrabanan. Avol chiyuv leka. It's not a deraisa. The psikreisha lo nichale l'kul alma. V'chol zel in Shabbos. Now he tells me a very, very yesodistic thing here. When we say psikreisha lo nichale is also midrabanan and not midaraisa, that's only regarding Shabbos. The bo'in shem meleches machsheves. Because on Shabbos there's this extra concept of meleches machsheves. You've got to do things for the intention of the Beis Hamikdash, etc., and therefore it's a psikreisha nichale. You've taken all that stuff away. It's no longer meleches machsheves, and therefore there's no issa d'oraisa. Avol the inyan shar isurim Torah, in other aspects, in other isurim in the Torah, das harosh, the psikreisha nichale l'kulam ma'osa the isurim in the Torah. Psikreisha nichale is only going to help you for Shabbos to reduce it from a d'oraisa drabon, and not in other isurim in the Torah. Okay, nun daled. Bedova, ha'olam noagin heta bedova, says the Mishnah Berurah, hainu shemafrizin al hamida yoyse midei arishona. They are even more lenient than the first opinion. The minhag is that even if there's a bowl there are those who are makil, even if the liquid is collected. But says the Mechaber, v'yesh lilmod aleim zuchus kimishabazun eres al de magas mutadav yasfoig. And perhaps we can be melamed zchus on that very lenient opinion that even if there's a bowl underneath it, we allow using this material stopper, Because it's like a sfoig with the base achiza where you're not actually touching the material part where the liquid is collected. Says the Mishnah Berurah, hey, the shani beis achiza shel sfoig de mahani, the ein sham ela kinuach ba'alma. You're just wiping the table. Masha ein ken kan shemahadkin habarza b'chayzek. And he says v'yesh legamgem. We don't really like this heta because there's a difference between the sfoig. The sfoig, you're touching the beis achiza, you're wiping the table, and you're not actually touching the material part which the liquid is collected in. But here, you're pressing it into the side of the barrel, so it's inevitable that the liquid is going to come out of the material. It's inevitable it's going to happen. And therefore, much better not to put a kli underneath it to avoid it being psikreishas and and therefore the liquid will just go to waste. And you can rely on the first opinion over here. So not only do you need to not have a kli underneath it, you should try and have a long sort of plug. So you've got two benefits, i.e. there's no kli underneath it, and therefore it's no nichele. Plus, you're not actually touching the material part of it, which is touching the wine. You've got this longer plug. Ad kan loshen hataz. All of the above is talking about a barrel of wine. Or other liquids. And not with water. Why? The reason is the kol hamashkin chutz mimayim there come rishonim ein bo mishum libun. Because there's no libun over there. You've got coloured liquid. You're not going to clean your material. There's not proper laundering. You don't launder with red wine or with orange juice or things like that. The issa sechita also rak mishum mefarek, and the issa sechita is extracting liquids from a solid. Kamo soichet zeisim anovim. V'lochein bo'inan min ater lekula alma she'etzorich lemashkin hayotzin zumi de mefarek. And therefore, there's got to be a need, a usage for the liquid that's coming out, like mefarek. And therefore, according to the second opinion, we still say it's also midrabanan. But if the barrel contains water, then then you're laundering the material which is being used as the plug. You've got a separate problem, i.e. not a mefarik of melabin, i.e. of laundering. For us in the liquid, if the water is liquid, you've got a problem. If it's white wine, you've got the same problem as mayim, because it will to some degree launder it. The Shulchan Aruch must be talking about red wine, and that's why he's quite makel. Which is not laundering the material, mishum mefarik. And therefore, it's only going to be a problem if it's nichele you're happy with the liquid that comes out and that is collected. If you've got a spill, that you spill your wine on the Shabbos table, and or other liquids, and it goes onto the tablecloth. And you want to spoon up the wine that's spilled, with a knife to clean up the tablecloth. You've got to be careful. Not imagine you've got a tablecloth which has got liquid in it. Don't press down too hard on the tablecloth with a spoon, because that will be sita, you're being soichet the liquid out of the material. For rak yoses hamashka hatzof melamala, you can just spoon up the liquid which is collected on top of the tablecloth. And if the mashka is coloured, don't spread the liquid to other areas of the tablecloth, because that is going to colour the tablecloth. Like we're going to say in Sifchof. And certainly if water goes on the tablecloth, the Sechitas Maim who told the melabin, because then you've got a problem of melabin if you're squeezing the material. If you squeeze hair or leather, potter of it also, it's an also, this is drabanon. And therefore a person goes to mikvah on Shabbos, you've got to be careful not to squeeze the hair to dry it out, because that is an issa de rabbanon of Sechita. Okay, say that.